Hi, welcome. I'm Amy. I'm your instructor today for the Makerspace class called Learn How to Sew a T-shirt for Your Dog. This is a really fun, different sort of class where we're going to make a garment for your dog. This particular garment is for a small dog. This is the T-shirt that we're going to be making. I put a little fancy dog bone applique on mine. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that as well. It has sleeves, two little arms, so it'd be on your dog like this. So this is basically the back or the underside, and this is the top of the dog. And this is the neck here, and then two sleeves. So that's what we're going to be making. It's a little knit T-shirt. The pattern that you're going to get, you could actually also make a tank top. So you could use it again and just skip the sleeves and make a tank top for your dog. So, it has some versatility. So that's our little shirt. And I'm also going to show you how to shorten the pattern. So this is the front pattern for the dog. I shortened mine because I have a pug and her little tail sits on her back, and so I don't want the shirt to bump into that. So I'll show you how to do that too. Really quick, I want to get the measurements for the neck on the pattern for you guys, for the dog. I believe it should fit a dog that has about a 15-inch neck up to 22-inch neck. Yeah, 15-inch neck or a chest, sorry. The neck circumference is up to 15 inches and the chest circumference is up to 22 inches. So that's the size dog. So this is like a French bulldog or a pug. Might work on a Chihuahua, but more that size of a dog, or a little like poodle mixed Shih Tzu or Bichon kind of mixed dog. So the pattern that you're going to get is, I'm going to email it to you. So keep an eye out for that. And it's got about 8 pages to it. And please bear with me, you guys. I actually was sick over Christmas. I got COVID, my whole family did, and this is my first day back to work. So bear with me, my voice might kind of be a little cracky, but I'm doing okay. So the pattern has about 8 pages. You can print them out on your regular printer, 8.5 by 11 sizes like this. Again, it's about 8 pages, and then it's going to show you how to piece the pieces together. So these are the pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how you have to paste the pages together. So today we're going to talk about the pattern, how to print, printing it, how to put it together and cut it out. We're going to cut the pattern out on the fabric, and then we're going to start sewing. Many of you who've taken my classes, the knit T-shirt class, this will be a review for you because it's the same steps. We're going to sew the shoulder seam, the side seam, put in this, we're going to prep the sleeve, put in the sleeves, and then sew on a neckline. So it's the same process as on a human T-shirt as well, but it's just a smaller scale and the pattern's a little different. I think that's about it so that's what we're doing for today. I've already cut out my pattern, so it's really easy. Don't be intimidated. After you print out the pages, follow this guide, tape each page together. You tape them together. You can see there's tape. I won't be able to see it, but I taped the pages together. Right here is where the pages are taped. So you just simply tape the pages together. You match these notches. There's like notches on the paper. Match them up match up the pattern pieces, and then after they're taped, then you can cut them out. If you have any difficulty doing that, just email me. I don't mind helping you out, but I'm pretty sure you guys will be able to figure it all out. Hang on a second. Okay, so we talked about the pattern. You're gonna paste it, print it out at home, tape together the pieces, and then cut it out. Then I'm gonna switch my camera. Then you can lay out the pattern on your fabric, just like a regular pattern. So this is my my doggy, I'm calling it the front. So she actually, the woman who made the pattern, she actually gives you different lengths. So the original pattern's like this. So you can actually shorten it or lengthen it. You could have it at the longest length here, or you could cut it as much as you want. I actually shortened mine even more. The shortest length wasn't short enough. So I shortened it about 1 inch, and then I'm actually going to shorten it again because 1 inch wasn't enough. I didn't finish doing it because I wanted to show you guys. So all you have to do is just kind of mark where you want the length to end. You can measure your dog or eyeball it, or you could actually just hold the pattern on your dog and see what you like. And then figure out how much you want to shorten it. This is a little over 1 inch. And then you don't want to move this piece here. You want this to stay the same. So you need this line here to come to 0 up here. So you'll just draw in the curve. So in pattern making, there are tools. And some of you have taken classes with me in the makerspace. We've used the French curve, or we've used a hip curve. I'm not using one right now. I know you guys don't have them at home. You can just draw it in. And then what you do to make it the same on the other side is you just fold it over. Make sure you use a Sharpie so that it shows through on the other side. And then you can see your line through on the other side, and you just trace it like that. And then it shortens. You could even change the fit in other ways. You could make the shoulder longer here. My dog is a pug and she has a really big chest. So I almost want to, it doesn't really fit her that well. The chest is really tight. I'd like to make the shoulders longer. So I might do that actually when I'm cutting. So you can actually add to the pattern. You just take a blank piece of paper, a little scrap, and tape it on, and then you can just add in whatever you want, a 1/2 inch or not, or 1 inch. 1 inch might be too much. I wouldn't add more than a 1/2 inch, maybe like this, and use your ruler and draw it across. And then you would do the same on the other side. The best thing to do again is to fold your pattern and copy it to the other side so it's the same. But I'm not even going to do that. That's the proper way to do it. I'm just going to add it while I'm cutting. So you can watch me do that. Watch me make all my little shortcuts. And then, so there's how many pieces? There's there's this front piece. There's the back piece, or the underbody piece. It looks like this. Again, I shortened mine. I'm not going to shorten this piece again because these two pieces should match. So this is what you need to check, these little side seams. So this person's pattern's a little bit off. I downloaded this pattern from, I think I got it on Etsy. You can see right here that if I match up these side seams, this one's a little bit longer, 1/4 inch. So that's a error in the pattern. I sewed it anyway, and I was able to fudge that little extra bit in. Let's check the other side. The other side's the same. I'm actually going to fix that right now, because when you're sewing, it does make it kind of complicated. It's a little harder to sew when you have that extra length. So I'm just going to mark like this and then draw my line like that, and then I'm going to cut this out. So now it's going to be easier to sew. And let's see. Let's check the other side. So the other side as well. So that's all I did, is I just drew a line straight over and connected it there, and then I'm going to cut it out. So this is something that when you buy a professional pattern from Simplicity or Butterick, those are going to work. But like when you buy stuff online from small time people, sometimes the patterns don't necessarily match up. The next thing to check is the shoulders. I noticed the shoulders were a little off too when I was sewing it. So maybe we should adjust that a little too as well. Again, I'm holding it up and I'm marking where the shoulder ends here with my pen, and then I'm just gonna smooth that line in. I just smoothed it in. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I prefer to use the Sharpie again, so that we can just copy it to the other side and we know it's the same. And I'm just going to trim this off now. So is this going to affect the armhole? Yeah, it does affect the armhole. But it was only like 1/4 of an inch, so I don't think it's going to make that big a deal. This is the sleeve. So again, front and back. Now we have a sleeve. It's kind of an interesting sleeve shape. I've never seen anything like this before. Remember, this is a cut 2. All the other pieces are cut 1. So the sleeve goes like this. You just connect it like this, and this is the armhole. So it works pretty well. I didn't have much trouble sewing it in. It seemed to fit pretty decent. I used 1/4 inch seam allowances while sewing, so I want you guys to do that too. Since we did make this armhole a little bigger, I think I will add a little bit on right here. I'll add 1/4 inch just down all the way down the side here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write it in. So I write like this. I write plus 1/4 inch, and I do a little arrow plus 1/4 inch. and a little arrow. So that tells me when I'm cutting out my pattern, I'm just going to add a 1/4 inch here. And I'll show you that when I actually cut. These are just some little tricks that I use. This is the neck piece. It worked really well. I sewed a really healthy, like 1/4 inch seam allowance here, and the neck fit into the neckline nicely. So I was happy with that. This is how the neck piece turns out. It's kind of this thick neckband. Looks really nice. And then I added a little applique, but we'll talk about that after we get it cut out. All right, so let's cut out the body pieces first. Now that we have the pattern ready. So you could probably get away. I used scrap fabric because you don't need that much fabric. So I just found some knit scraps that I had laying around, and I'm able to fit all my pieces. Oh, I forgot to cut this. I shortened it. So I'm following the grain line on the pattern. There's a grain line here in the center of all the pattern pieces. There's a grain line in this knit fabric. I can see it. I mean, knits aren't like wovens, but there is a direction on knits that you do need to follow. So I just use my fabric weights, and if you want to put in, if you have fabric weights, and then add some pins where it's popping up, you can. I'm not adding any pins yet. I'm just going to see if I can get away with cutting out without pins. Let's see if I can get a better view for you. Yay, almost there. All right, so that's my underbody piece. So I'm going to put it aside because I want to iron it again because my fabric was wrinkled. Wrinkles weren't coming out that great the first time I ironed it. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the other pieces quickly. After I'm done cutting everything, then I'm going to sew the shoulder and the side seam. With my knit stitch, so you need to use your stretch stitch most sewing machines today have a stretch stitch on their on their sewing machine. So you can either find it using your manual or looking at your console. They'll have different stitch choices, and there's usually like a zigzag stitch choice, and that's usually your stretch stitch. With the stretch stitch, I don't want you to back stitch at the beginning. And that's because the fabric tends to bunch up. So you have to turn it around and go back and finish the top of the fabric. Some of you will already remember that from the last projects. If you have a bigger dog that you need to make this t-shirt for, or you want to do this for other dogs, the website does sell bigger sizes. You have to buy them separately. And I can email you guys the well, I got it on Etsy. I'll email you the name of the seller on Etsy if you're interested in making future dog t-shirts. So there's the front. So the sleeve is a cut 2. All the pieces tell you if they're cut 1 or cut 2. So I have my fabric folded in half, but all the other pieces were just cut 1, just so you know. And remember, I'm gonna add, and you should too, to the sleeve, because we had to adjust that side seam. It wasn't matching the armhole, the shoulder seam. So when I add, I just cut beyond the pattern a 1/4 inch, and then I just cut straight up. It's a straight line, so it's really easy to add that 1/4 inch. And you can see I've just added a 1/4 inch just like that. And now I go back to following the pattern. You could have added a 1/4 inch on this side too, either side. So again, I'm putting my sleeves to the side. I'm going to iron everything again after I'm done. So I only need 1 layer for the neckband. I'm going to open up my fabric. And I'm going to use some pins. and then cut. So I always save my bigger scraps. It's a good habit to be in. I usually save like medium-sized scraps and bigger sized scraps, and then the little ones I throw away. And I keep them rolled up together. And save them for in the future. Just roll them up like that, and I keep them in the same bin with other knits. And then my patterns, I always roll them up and label them. So this is a really good habit to get in to keep your patterns nice and organized and safe, is I just roll them up like this. And I use a piece of scrap yarn or fabric, whatever I have. I have a piece of leather here, and I make a label, whatever label you want, and tie it like this. And then I keep them all together in a bin or a basket, or if there's instructions, like I have all these instructions, I'll keep it all together in the same bag together. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the ironing board and iron my pieces one more time because they're really wrinkled. So a lot of you weren't able to come to class today, so you're watching the video. And if you're coming to the second session, I just need you guys to have your homework done. So in the second session, we'll be sewing the sleeve in and the neckline and the hem. So you'll need to have everything cut out, and you'll need to have the side seams and the shoulder seams sewn together for next class. If you're doing some sort of applique on your t-shirt, you should have that on too. You could add it after, so don't stress if you want to wait and add it after. I added mine after because I thought of it later, but it's easier to add it now. So that's my front body. So now I'm going to add my applique. So I used felt. So if you have felt laying around, this is perfect for that. Roz just joined us. So I just need to pick a color. I have this lavender color I think I'll use. Hi, Raj, welcome. I'm recording right now. I can't hear you. So the bone. So I'm gonna make a little applique again, just like this one. It's really easy to do. If you have some felt, I recommend using felt. If you don't have felt, you could use something stable, not knit. Don't use a knit. Use like a corduroy or velvet or something. And I literally just free-handed mine. So I'm using a Sharpie. And drawing it about the size that I want and the shape that I want. And then I'm going to cut it out. This is going to be the wrong side that gets sewn to the t-shirt, so I don't really care about the ink mark. No one's going to see it. But this is just something fun that you can do to add, to customize the t-shirt, to make it more interesting, and you can do it with your own clothes too. So that gets sewn on just like that. So I want it somewhat centered on the shirt. And I'm going to pin it, and I'm going to sew it on just using my standard sewing stitch. I'm not going to use the stretch stitch. So it's just faster and easier to use this regular straight stitch. There's no reason that you can't. It's not going to affect anything. You just want to make sure that the t-shirt's flat when it's pinned on, so there aren't any bubbles. And now I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'm going to put my needle in here, and I'm just going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch from the edge all the way around with just a plain straight stitch. So it's going to look like this all the way around. I used the same color thread as the shirt, so it was kind of a contrast. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So I'll go sew that on and I'll come right back and I'll show you the next step. All right, so here is the dog bone applique. So you could do like your dog's name, the letter of your dog, or a heart or a star, whatever you want. You could even use pinking shears for the edges if you like the way the pinking shears look on the edge of the felt. Yeah, so it's something really simple and fun. So the next step is sewing the shoulder seams. So literally we're going to take our underbody piece, this piece here. These are the shoulders. So this is the bottom, shoulders are up here. And I'm just putting them right sides together. And hopefully if we made our adjustments correct, they should be matching pretty well. The shoulders should be. Yep, they're matching pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and pin. I used 1/4 inch seam allowances. So that's what you should do. And I just match up the corners first. And then I pin each corner, and then I pin down the center. And same on the other side. So after I pin the shoulders, then I'm going to pin the side seam. Again, matching the corners. And now I'll pin the other side seam. And then after I'm done pinning, then I'll go to the sewing machine and sew all these seams up with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. You should go ahead and finish your seams with pinking shears. If you have a serger, you could finish them that way. Unfortunately, the makerspace isn't opening after all because of the Omicron surge. Everything's kind of been put off. Otherwise, I'd have you guys go use the sergers there. So after everything's pinned, you can go sew, use your stitch, your knit stitch. It's called a stretch stitch. And then you'll finish the seams with your pinking shears. Again, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then after you're done doing this, then all you need to do before next week is to prep your sleeves. So you want to fold them in half, right sides together like this, and pin this little underseam right here. So you'll want to pin and sew this underseam, 1/4 inch seam allowance, pink the raw edges so that they're finished. And once these underarm seams are sewn, then the sleeve is ready to sew into the garment. So, but we're not going to sew the sleeve in today. Today we're just prepping the sleeve. So go ahead and finish pinning this. I don't recommend pinking before you sew, just because sometimes when you pink, you might mess up and pink off more than you meant to, and then your side, the seam allowances are going to be different. It's going to change the size. So you always want to do it after. So those are ready to go. I'm going to take my camera over to the sewing machine and just show you, for those of you that aren't used to sewing knits, you might need some extra direction. So I want to just quickly show you that before I end the video. So we're going to move a little bit here. Sorry for that little rocky move. So if you're new to sewing with your stretch stitch, right here, most sewing machines have a list of all their stitches. This is the stitch tension, usually here. On mine, my stitch length is this number right up here, and the stitch width is the number below. So I've been using my number 3. So these are just regular straight stitches right here. This number 2 is a stretch stitch. It has like 3 stitches next to each other. This is a stretch stitch. Use this too. These are all like embroidery stitches, so I wouldn't use those. So it's going to be somewhere right here, a zigzag. So this is a zigzag, and it has a width, a stitch width, the width of the zigzag. I leave mine at 1. It's at 1 because I want it to be really small. And my stitch length is 3. I change it to 3. Tension should be like right around there. And then another tip for the people that might be new and don't remember, don't back stitch to the edge. So what I do is I just sew and start sewing about 1/4 inch from the edge. And I don't back stitch. I just keep going forward all the way to the end of the fabric and stitch off the edge of the fabric. I just stitch right off the edge and then I stop. And then what I do is I go back and finish that area that I didn't get because I didn't back stitch. If you backstitch, what happens is the fabric gets bunched up. Most likely it will. So it's worth it to do this. I just turn my fabric around. Stitch right where I left off. Straight off the fabric like that. And there you have it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish those stitches, those seams on my own. And you should do that too. And we'll meet up again on Saturday. Let's check. I think it's the 24th. 22nd. I'll see you on Saturday the 22nd, and we'll finish up our dog t-shirts. Have a great weekend. Thanks. Bye.